What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the castle. That's Card Stock Afterlock. I'm going to be your host today, Will Priester, aka Chief Justice 06. Got a two-man booth tonight, joined by my main man, Tyler Toe-Tagging Tambo. What's going on, my friend? How are things up there in the big country of Canada?
They're going well, Will, and it's good timing. I'm back here with you, man. Love to do it. Love to talk some cards. We're off the Top Shot tip this week. We're going to go back to physical cards, and I think we got a pretty good show plan. We're going to go through a lot of stuff that you and I talk about on the sides, on the sidelines, and bring it to the forefront, right? So lots of topics that we'll get to. Maybe you want to let the people know what we're going through here, but it's going to be a good show. Lots to go through.
Yeah, man, I'm definitely going to let them in on, kind of what we're going to talk about today. And a lot of what we're going to talk about is what are we going to do heading into the NBA playoffs, right? And how is that going to affect card prices? And then also, how have some of these injuries affected what people are buying now? I mean, we've got some big names that have been out, and I don't want to say they're kind of, out of sight, out of mind, but LeBron's been on the shelf. AD's been on the shelf. Embiid has had some time away. The Celtics have dealt with, COVID a fair amount of times. Big news. Jamal Murray isn't even going to be in the playoffs. He's done. And that's just sad for the Denver organization. But those are just a couple of the topics that we're going to get into. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about our sponsor, that's sportscardinvestor.com. You definitely want to get over there. We're going to be showing off that tool, showing you how magnificent it is, showing you, how you can use it to make really informed decisions. That's sportscardinvestor.com. Use the promo code GRINDERS. That's going to get you 20% off that first payment. That's either for the month or for the year. Always recommend the year so you can get the most bang for your buck. You may be saying, hey, why do the year over the month? Well, if you just do it for the month, you get that one-time 20%, and then you're full price for the next 11 months. If you do it for the year, I'm telling you, it's worth it. I've got the tool. I'm using it. I'm involved in what I preach. So definitely sportscardinvestor.com, promo code GRINDERS, 20% off your first payment for the month or the year. Tambo, let's get into it, man. I did want to mention this because I think in terms of cardboard, because now we're alternating between Top Shot and cardboard, and I actually like it because cardboard is still a big deal. If anybody's watching NBA TV, watching some of these shows now, guys are just doing breaks live. Grant Hill almost has a segment where he's popping packs, once or twice a week. Even outside of that, if any of our daily fantasy sports people are listening, FanDuel is having their live final. They're going to be doing pack breaks for the live final for the virtual event. My good friend Dre won so many seats, he invited me to tag along. So I'm going to be a part of the virtual experience. This is going to be fantastic. And they're breaking some big boxes. Flawless. I know they're going to have some optic. Yeah, so it's kind of going to be a big thing. So I'm excited to see that. But let's hop in here, man, and just kind of talk about the playoffs. What's your read on the playoffs in terms of maybe some players you want to target? And how you kind of want to go about that. I know we've kind of brought on some guys early, but let's hop in right there. Just kick it off there. Who are we looking at heading into the playoffs?
Yeah, before we do, man, speaking of Dre, I'm going to, toe tag along Tambo. Maybe the next time you got that many tickets and I can hop in there with you guys as well. That's going to be a lot of fun. I did see that. Like you said, all those boxes, they got different tiers. Our guy Hefe was talking about it. So certainly excited for those guys. Besides what's on the line with everything you got going on there, we do a lot of daily fantasy stuff. So that's certainly exciting. As far as these cards go, Will, and these playoff guys, you and I talked about this before in a couple other shows. So if you guys haven't seen those, you can go back and check them out. They're out there on YouTube and whatnot where we've done this show. But we talked about some certain guys that we were targeting. We talked about cycles and being in on them. And I know one of the guys, it's not going to be cheap now, but you can probably pull them up and look at the progression. I mean, they are sitting first as we speak in the Western Conference, and that's Donovan Mitchell for Utah. I guess the situation there for me was I bought him because we know what he can do in the playoffs. We know he can heat up and have 50-point games. We know those big fantasy games and scoring games are what sells cards. But it's funny enough because it's the Utah Jazz, right? Like nobody expected them to keep winning like this. I don't know anyone who expected them to be at 40 wins this fast, and they just continue on this pace. They've got a little bit of injury stuff right now, but it's all minor. It's nothing too serious. So again, fully expect them to be there, be in the hunt. With the unfortunate injury to, fellow Canadian guy, Jamal Murray, torn ACL. Just hate to see that last night, down on the floor, almost in tears. It messes with Jokic, who we'll talk about later, right? Because he's sort of an MVP candidate. He's a big, but I want to see Mitchell where he's at with the progression, because got him quite a while ago. We showed it on the show, a couple different cards that we had for him, but the Prism PSA 10 and then the Optic PSA 10. I see you've got them both up there. That's the two that I hopped in on, even a red, white, yellow. Red, yellow, blue of the Optic, but still.
That's just a beautiful one, by the way. That's a beautiful one.
It stands out to me. It's not the hollow, but it's still a little bit offsetting. It's worth about the same to me as the base. It just kind of is cool, and it's a little bit offsetting in that sense. But I think this is a good guy. And again, maybe there's still love because you could still get in and make some money off this, in my opinion, because there's still not a lot of love right now, again, because he's the Utah Jazz. It doesn't shine as much as some of these other big name superstars. So he was one, and then wanted to look at Trae Young after as well, if you want, but just a couple guys to bring up.
Yeah, man. And we'll definitely pull up Trae. Don't look now. The Atlanta Hawks are sitting in the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference. It seems like they're pretty much a shoe-in to go to the playoffs. Nate McMillan has really, got that team humming along, even with some of their injuries recently. Here's a cool thing about Donovan Mitchell, though. If for some reason they happen to go very deep in the playoffs this year, let's say they make it to the Western Conference Finals. Look at the pop counts on all these Mitchells. I mean, it's 2017 Optic base, PSA 10, 1,963. The Prism, and Prism didn't have as many print runs. So if you want to kind of get an idea about that, check out my article from my boy Brennan Ruby. He did a really good article about how Prism is kind of really dialed up their the generation of their cards as time has progressed. In 2017, they still weren't making a whole lot, or not as much as they are now, like let's say compared to Luka and all these newer ones. So at 3,969, that's still really valuable. And then of course the Select at 530. I'm going to kind of look at these prices here and look at all the information you get when not just the charts. You can scroll down and get all this information. Looks like the Optic base is up 45%. Last sale was on 4/10/21 for $219. The Prism was 33%. It's up 33%, up $117 over the span of the chart. $470 in the last sale, and then the Select up 110%, $249, $474 on the last sale, which was April 11th. And then I'm gonna go ahead and plug this article now because I'm gonna be releasing this one tomorrow. Brennan just did an article about how Select seems to be becoming the more popular card, whether it's because of the pop count, because of how it looks. And then, of course, the first card we pull up is Mitchell. And look at the difference in the price increase over that time. 110% compared to 33% for the Prism. And not that Prism isn't a good card to have, but I mean, just even in the appearance, I definitely think the Select is better. But look at that, man. 474 now has surpassed the Prism. And that's something we've talked about over time, just how we think Select is coming. And then lo and behold, look at that. And this is something we plan. We're just pulling random guys on the show so we can get the natural reaction. Tambo, when you see this data from the market movers tool, like what are kind of your thoughts? Because this one, even though I know Brendan wrote the article and I've read it, he was kind of talking about like Zion and some of those guys, Tatum's. But to see this Select Donovan Mitchell creep up past the Prism, I think that's a really big deal with the current state of the market.
I think the market's getting smarter. It's no surprise to us, maybe, because we've been sitting here talking about this for plenty of our shows that we've done where the pop count comes into play. And like you said, there's a lot of great information here on Sports Card Investor. You could see it right there. Call it 4,000, call it 500. It's 1/8 the count of what you've got as far as cards out there. And it actually looks nicer to me. It was extremely rare. It's hard to get. There's not many PSA 10s. Like there's all those factors. You can look at it with Luka. You can look at it with Tatum. Like these cards to me just look better, and they're not the Prism. So therefore you get this stigma, or this situation where sometimes people will be against that. But in reality, don't you want the card that's more scarce or more rare? And in reality, to me, this case especially, and I know the Tatum quite well. I was going to say you should pull up Tatum. and just
Let's
see
do
if
it.
it's very similar. But let's look at him, because Tatum, is one of my favorite players, if not my favorite player right now in the NBA. And I got a lot of his cards. Boston's sort of lagging. They're sitting in 7th, but there's a lot of room for movement. It's pretty tight between them and Atlanta sitting up there in 4th, and time to go. But some of the COVID stuff and things like that, I just wonder what his looks like right now, because I plan to hold them for a lot longer than this season, but maybe let a couple go in the playoffs if something looks good. But, that's another card where I just like the look of the Select so much better than I like the look of the Prism. And I'm wondering if it's going to be the same as Donovan Mitchell here when we look at it.
Well, spoiler alert. So let's talk about the pop count. So it's kind of similar, right? Like you've got 31, 38 on the Optic, which Optic is always kind of going to be under Prism, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Select is always going to be under those. And I'm just pulling basically base. So, and if anybody's new to the card space, Concourse is the base for Select. So I know it doesn't say base, but Concourse is the base. And then let's just go down and kind of look at these numbers. Look at that. Tatum is actually trending down right now. So we're talking about the playoffs, Tambo, and I didn't think we were going to shift gears to this topic because we wanted to look at these numbers. But this is the beauty of market movers, right? We're looking at this and we're thinking, okay, maybe Tatum is catching up. If the Donovan Mitchell Select is starting to leap past the Prism, it's only a matter of time before the Tatum catches up, right?
Right.
We think Boston's going to make it into the playoffs. I know they've kind of been hovering, kind of trying to get in a groove. We got to think Boston's going to get in. And when they get in the playoffs, we got to think we're going to see some performances from Jason Tatum. And I'm not saying, like we've talked about, you don't have to flip all your Tatums. Like you need to probably have a couple so you can have some profit on a guy that you really like. But to see that Tatum is now trending down and all of his cards are down about 20%, this has me excited about a buying opportunity. I mean, look at this. 357 was the last sale date on this Concourse. That's incredible. I mean, that's cheaper than Donovan Mitchell. Not that Donovan Mitchell isn't warranted because of where they are in the standings, but I think in terms of, let's say, upside, I think from an upside standpoint, we still think maybe Tatum has a little bit more upside than Mitchell from a all-star, MVP type season. And maybe I'm wrong on that, but I think Tatum has more star appeal. This has me excited about buying opportunities. What say ye, my friend?
Well, especially on the Select. Just look at it right there. We just watched how the Spider card surpassed its Prism with almost the same pop numbers. It was 500 versus 4,000 to 700 versus, call it, 5,000. And there's a large gap there. They're all down equally. They're all down 20%. There's no doubt the Tatum market is down. We can see that. But What's glaring is 357 versus 601. Now, do you really think 601? Now, maybe show this off, Will, because it's another good thing. We got some time here. Click into the Tatum Prism and let's see what the lowest it's been at in the last 6 months or year for that card. Has it ever touched 357? Because what I want to find out is it still overpriced, or is it more like we've got upside in that Select based on the Mitchell news that we just saw? So let's look at the pink
Prism,
lines.
The Prism in January, one sold for $764. So just by that alone, we've still got upside. If you notice, the Select was $449 at that point. So just by buying it right now, we've still got plenty, and it hadn't even peaked yet. So
what's the lowest it ever sold at? 500?
Let's see. I think
the Prism. Sorry, the Prism.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now. That looks
520.
Like about 620.
Okay, yeah. If that's the lowest,
520. Okay, 521. I'm following 507. What's that? 498 is the cheapest it's been in the past since January.
So the lowest it ever sold at is, call it, $500.
Yeah.
But the Select in the Donovan Mitchell card has surpassed the Prism with enough sales. There was over 100. There was enough volume going out there that now, to me, it's the Select is the buy here, because not only is it the same pop version of what we just saw with Donovan Mitchell, but the Select ended up passing the Prism in the Mitchell. And someone could say, yeah, but maybe the Tatum Prism is just too high. Maybe 601 is too much for that card. Well, the lowest it's ever sold for in this time frame is 498. So it's unlikely to touch 357, which means the 357 you can just buy on the Select is likely a good buy with upside, because not only do we think it could go up just in the short term, talk about the long term or even beyond the playoffs, like Tatum's upside as a player. Like you said, just an all-star MVP. Like LeBron's going to leave the league at some point, and I'm not saying Tatum takes the throne. I'm just saying Tatum's definitely in the class of guys that are going to carry it together. The Zions, the Lukas, the Tatums, the Mitchells, the Bookers, Levines, if you will. Like, you can put all your names in there and lump them in, but these are the guys that you're just sort of thinking about of, you know, passing the torch to the next tier or the next range of guys that will take over the league.
Yeah, I mean, for me, man, when I'm looking at this and I'm looking at this select, I mean, if we just invert the numbers or try to replicate what we saw with Mitchell, if the Tatum select passes the Prism anytime through this stretch, you better have a couple of them on hand, because you're going to want to sell. I mean, if it hits 500, you may want to sell 600. You're definitely probably going to want to sell one of them. This is a great buy right now. I mean, the Jason Tatum select it's a great buy. In fact, I mean, even the optic, I think, is still a good buy. I mean, the optic doesn't move around as much as some of the other ones, but even at 244, I'd be willing to buy the optic, knowing that it probably goes up $100 to $150 over this span if they get in the playoffs and compete. I'm going to pull up someone else that you mentioned, because now that this team is going to the playoffs, and Trey isn't playing tonight. We're recording this show on a Tuesday night. They're playing Toronto. Are they playing Toronto? Yeah, I think they're playing Toronto. But let's see where Trae Young kind of is on that same plane. So we've got optic, prism, select. We're just going to pull the bases. Just want to see where we are here. Base, concourse, and let's see where we are in the PSA 10 variety. I think this is going to be another eye opener. I think, especially if it's trending up. Let's just see where we are here. All right, so the Trae is trending down. We see the line, right? Trae is trending down. Let's pull up the numbers. Okay, so look at this. The concourse and the prism are a lot closer in price right now, whereas the last sale date, 412, and Trae has a lot of. So another thing, Trae has a lot more liquidity. You see that? Because he's got a lot more cards out there. So that's the first thing I want everybody to see. When you see these little tick marks, those are sales. Trae's selling all the time. So I think that's big for us as collectors and buyers and sellers, Tambo, because this lets us know we can probably get in and out of a trade fairly quickly if we needed to. Like if we, something comes up, maybe we want to flip a couple of trades into, I don't know, some big card of National Treasures or something. It seems like we can get in and out of trade pretty quickly. Just wanted to kind of highlight that. But yeah, as we can see, Trade's trading down 36% on the select concourse, 45% on the prism, 50% on the optic. All of these, I think, are great buys for a team that's about to get into the playoffs and a guy that's going to have some form of a spotlight on him for the time being, especially with them being a 4 seed right now. I'm projecting they'll probably go anywhere from 4 to 6 as long as they don't have a meltdown. I think Trae's a great buy. First year in the playoffs. Beautiful concourse card there. Even his prism looks good. Like, this is probably one of the better prisms they've made in the past, 7-8 years. I mean, so I think the prism, I think all of these are great buys right now. I know the optic isn't as popular as we can see, or as pricey, let me say, in terms of where we're at, and one just sold today for $151. This actually has me really excited about Trae for a lot of his cards being almost cut in half. I mean, this is incredible for us to be heading into the playoffs, knowing that we're going to see some upside from these guys. Tammo, let me shut up and let you talk.
Well, no, it's all good. I just bring up 2 points. One, it makes the Tatum buy that much better to me out of the gate, just before that select, because like I said, we see another opportunity here where it's almost the same as the prism, and Tatum was just so much lower. It just doesn't have a lot more room to drop in the select, and it has the opportunity of the upside. So if I'm spending $300 on a card right now, it's this Trae Young, and I'll give you a reason why that's still a good idea in a second, this Trae Young select, and then the Tatum for the similar price, $357 or $300, whatever it was. My point there being, obviously it looks like the Trae doesn't have as much upside to match the prism, versus like if that select for Tatum goes to 600 from 300, you've almost doubled your money. Now, the thing about this is, though, that you notice with the Trae and the pop counts, interestingly enough, it's much lower. Like, this is 1/10 of the pop count of the prism. So that's the argument for Trae. And then again, talk about being in that next class. Trae Young is absolutely in that class. He scores a lot of points. He puts up big point games. we know that can sell as well. So I think they're both good buys, but realistically, this just opened my eyes to more select, which we'd already been talking about. And I've already got a bunch, but I just know that that's just why, like, you want to get the select cards. Maybe look at Zion. I'm curious because this guy's been, it's a good segue. I think we're going to talk about big men anyway. And I mean, this guy's just going out. Dan Bach called it pure bully ball, and it's true. He's getting away with everything on top of taking it up the court and crossing guys over and dunking on them. He's just bullying his way in and putting up some big points, big games.
In my opinion, in terms of Zion, I am going to pull him up. I want to point out one more thing about Trey. But Zion, to me right now, if he loses maybe just a tad bit of weight, gets a little bit more chiseled, he's going to be like a more athletic Shaq before this is all over with. Because right now he's unstoppable. Like, you can't, if he's coming downhill, forget about it. Like, just, you're not going to stop him. So he's not going to be a post Shaq type player, but in terms of body build, athleticism, I mean, he's kind of just starting to hit that unstoppable range. Here's something I want to point out about Trey. And then while I'm looking up Zion, if you want to chime in, Tambo, please feel free. The thing that I'm looking at with Trey and Tatum right now is they've had these serious peaks. Trey was at 712 on the Prism in January, 475 on the Select in January. He is trending down some, but still he's been around 500, 400. These are just tremendous buying opportunities. When I look at these prices, he's been up in the fives. We're at 388. We're at 300 on the Select. We've still got, 20%, 30% increase easy on these cards. And that's not including any type of playoff performances. That's just looking at where they were compared to where they are now. And this is almost, I hate to go here. Do you think Top Shot has something to do with people getting enamored? I don't know. This is just very strange that I see cards kind of dropping like this in the middle of the season. Well, I feel like this is kind of uncharted territory. I'll let you talk, Tambo, and let me pull up Zion.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know for sure if that's to do with it. I think you could definitely attribute just NFT space in general, where people are literally buying everything from Zed Run horses to Top Shots that we've already talked about to all the art pieces, and some of them are just beautiful. But at the same time, that's not what I think it is. I think one thing, and we brought this up a little in the past with Mikey J Cards, and we talked about this a few times, but this is one cycle. We're kind of in the heart of it. So this show is perfect. Well, we didn't probably put 2 and 2 together, but there is this one small period. I'm going to make some buys when we get off here, just looking at some of these things.
Absolutely.
The between the All-Star game and the playoffs, you almost get a one-shot deal. If you can just pull the trigger and drop $1,000 and pick up 2-3 cards that you think that are really have some upside. To me, it's those Tatum ones that, I got no problem buying Tatums on any given day. Now, even more so looking at those numbers. But just to give you the example, I bet if we spend even more time on this, and we'll go in through it tonight, maybe shoot some stuff back and forth and bring it to the next show or two. But this is that one little lull period that you get between All-Star break and then the playoffs, again, in a sort of a weird season. We're going to have the mini playoff play down to get into things. Like, it's just, there's more opportunities than probably you think. And this is that one buying period that you can do it, get it all in. And then before long, it's going to be gone when these things start to spike again.
Yeah. I mean, so we're on Zion.
Woo.
So Zion, as you can see, clearly he's going to have a lot of price points as well, a lot of opportunities. You can get in and out of Zion pretty easily. Here's what we see here. Zion, his is down 5%. The Concourse, the Select is up 17%. We saw 110. It's trending up.
Sorry, I didn't catch that.
Stop, Alexa. Sorry about that, guys. Alexa must have been listening. She must have thought I called her name. Did not.
No, that's like when the dog barks in the DFS videos when they're saying a play, and then that's the play of the week. That's Alexa saying buy Zion because there's a pump of 2,000. It's 1/8 of the Prism, and it looks like the Tatum. And it's actually gone up. It's 17% up and rising. So another good buy right here on Zion. Imagine this Zion card, not only long-term, but not only short-term, but long-term. If you, again, you mentioned a couple key points. There's plenty of liquidity. Look at those counts. Look how many of these are selling on a monthly, yearly, whatever the time frame is business. And then, maybe they sneak into this play down or maybe they don't or whatever. It's Zion. It really doesn't matter. You know what I mean? He's been proven to be the real deal. Unless there's an injury, knock on wood, it doesn't matter. And, like you said, I do think almost the opposite of LeBron James coming in and having to bulk up. And all of a sudden he's from this skinny kid that can just do anything he wants, athleticism through the roof, ceiling to no other. And all of a sudden he's bulked up and now it's like it's game over. And sure enough, it was. He's still here doing it, winning the championship last year. This is going to be a little bit of the opposite effect, but I think it's in his best interest. I think he's got a good camp around him. I think there's absolutely going to be a scenario where he comes back a little more chiseled, a little bit faster, and look out. And then look at this opportunity with this select right now. It's not too late.
Yeah, and the thing, Tambo, and what I'm looking at is where the highs were, because here's what we know about the highs: they're going back, right? At some point they're going to hit the high again. And if you're high on a player, especially a guy like Zion, what if he is the next LeBron James and you could have got this card for $375? LeBron James base Topps Chrome right now are probably anywhere at a PSA 10. I mean, we're probably talking $20,000, probably more than that, right? So why not get in right now at the ground level when the prices are trending down? These are guys we can hold for 5-10 years if we want. What if, and I'm just using this as an example, is Zion going to win a championship in New Orleans? Probably not. But when LeBron James leaves the Lakers, who's going there? Is it Zion? Is it Tatum? Anthony Davis is still going to be there, I think. Who's the next guy, right, that's going to leave and go have a championship scenario? We look at James Harden and Kevin Durant and Kyrie, how they've teamed up in Brooklyn. This is the NBA. This is how it works. Listen, Shaq left Orlando and went to LA and won with Kobe. That was the kind of the new NBA. So where is Zion going next? That's all these talk. Where is Tatum going next? I don't know if Tatum stays in Boston. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But my point is, at some point, these guys go from having the bright eyes and appreciating being in the NBA to wanting to win and have a legacy in the NBA. And that's what your star players do. They want to win. At some point, this Zion card is going to be worth a lot more than $375. And if we haven't purchased it, we're going to be kicking ourselves later on. If he gets one championship, this card's probably going to 10K easy. And that's while he's still playing. Seriously, I'm not joking. So that's where I'm at on Zion. We're already in it because we want to talk about big men, Tambo. Where do we want to start? Because we're going to wrap up here in a second. I think either Embiid or Jokic is where we kind of want to go. I'll leave it in your hands, man. Where are we headed?
Interested to look at Embiid. I think Jokic, the thing about Jokic is there's a little bit of a different story there. The unfortunate injury that the aforementioned Jamal Murray very well could and likely does hurt their playoff chances. I know today the Vegas odds, something we follow quite heavily, switched unfavorably against them after this injury, and for good reason. That's the heart of the team, the heart and soul. Yeah. Jokic is the guy, the MVP candidate, but Murray still brings that together and is a big part of that. They've got some role players, some guys, some rookies and things that can step in, but I don't think it's anywhere near, and neither does Vegas now. The chances aren't there. But Embiid is a different story because we got to look at this one. He has certainly spiked quite a bit, my friend, and that's one of the ones that we got to look at here. So that's the difference maker.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. I mean, we've got Embiid at 72% on the Prism, 87% on the Concourse, and which that's a beautiful card itself. 450 last sale date 4/9, 820 last sale date just yesterday, and it looks like as of right now, both of these cards are trending upward. And honestly, the Sixers do have a shot to go to the finals. Just because Brooklyn's out there, Philly has a shot. They've got enough. I think they're playing fairly good defense overall. Doc Rivers is the coach. I know some people believe in Doc, some people don't. Either way, he's got this team playing better than they were playing. And so I think looking at these numbers, and even this one, Tambo, for me, what's sticking out is I'm just looking at the highs and lows. This Embiid was up to 1,100, 750 on the select, down to 450, 820. We're seeing a lot of good buying opportunities. Folks, I can't stress enough, this is why market movers are so important. You're getting the real-time information. You don't have to wait to hear it from us. You can get on market movers yourself. Promo code Grinders, 20% off. That'll get you access to the market movers tool from sportscardinvestor.com. Can't stress enough how beautiful and how magnificent this tool is. Tambo, I'm going to hop on over to Jokic, but anything else you want to say about Embiid? Because this one, and it's amazing you're looking at it, each player is being treated differently. Like we're seeing Trae Young on a dip, on an extreme dip. We're seeing Tatum on an extreme dip where the cards are going down. And even though Embiid, his Prism, and Zion's, they're down from where they were, they're trending upward. It's amazing to me how you see the contrast between types of players, style of player, teams. those type things that are, I feel like, maybe driving a little bit of the popularity. I definitely think Embiid possibly winning MVP has something to do with these card spikes.
Oh, absolutely it does. I mean, the Denver injury to Jamal Murray can still can hamper the injury or the opportunity for Jokic to win a champion or an MVP now as well, on top of the championship, which we just talked about earlier, the potential of it. So there was that. But just the one thing while you're flipping over to Jokic with the Embiid was, interestingly enough, there was only around 1,000 Prism and there was around 500 of the Select. So it wasn't really as far off. It's just half versus some of the other ones like the Trae Young we saw was 1/10, right? Almost 9,000 versus 900. And so that's another thing you want to look at where you're saying, okay, now I've got, think about when there's 9,000 of that Trae Young, and that's why it is so liquid. People are just selling it off all the time and can almost back to our Top Shot conversation where you can see the undercutters come in because if I can't sell it for this price, I'm going to go to a little lower, and it keeps going down. Less likely to happen with the Select where there's only 900 of the Trae Youngs. In this situation, there's actually only 1,000 Embiids. And so that in that case too, it's like you can pick your poison there, but the Select does still look like a pretty good buy for $400 less at a population of 500 for a guy, like you said, could go all the way to the finals. The Eastern Conference isn't the easiest, but it's definitely easier than the West. And there's an opportunity there. The Brooklyn Nets are going to have something to say about that, but they could easily see each other in the Eastern Conference Finals. And that still could be enough for that card to get back to those highs.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to pull up Jokic. Now, Jokic only has a pop of 20 on this Select Premier. So Jokic doesn't have a lot of Select rookies, period. That's just the bottom line. But let's look at the gap in pricing here. He's not going to have as many sale points, but look at this. Look at where the price is. And guess what? I think the price is warranted considering the pop count. There's 20. There's 20. I mean, that's incredible. Anyway, last one sold for 1,060, up 32%. But look at the difference there, Tambo. Closing the gap on the Prism, right? This is the Prism base, up to $1,576. That's a change of 55%, 32%. And obviously, and this is the Select Premier. This isn't Concourse. So clearly, in terms of Select, this card is even more rare than what the base would be. Pop count of 20. If you want to get in on Jokic, he wasn't at this price a couple months ago. Trust me, he wasn't anywhere near that. So you can look here in February, that Select was $800. Look back in January, that was $1,012, and it was cheaper than that even before then. But clearly, people are in on Jokic still. I'd be interested to see how this trends maybe by the next time we do cardboard. And
I was going to say,
has it trended down a little bit? But clearly, I think between these two, and listen, we don't work for Panini. We don't get paid to pump Select. The proof is in the pudding. Pop count of 20, pop count of 540. I mean, geez, that's a fraction of where we are. And we're still getting this card cheaper than the Prism. I'd be all over this Select. Maybe I'd see where it goes. And if it continues to trend up, I may just have to pass on buying it. But bottom line, Select is where you want to be on this one.
Yeah, just to your point there, a couple of things quick. One, this card's a pass for me. It's too high, and we know the fear out there and what happens as soon as people get a little bit fearful, the price is going to just come down. So if you want this card, just hold off. But another good point you brought up there, I know because sometimes it's tougher to find. There's just not that many out there. Jokic wasn't on a lot of people's mind coming into the season. Maybe some sharper guys that were in on it, or guys and girls. But I would say this, you just made a really good point. This is the Select Premier, and all those other cards we looked at, the Tatums, the Youngs, all the Zions, even, they have better versions than just the Concourse in the Select that we were looking at. So again, we don't work for Panini. I don't care. We've talked about this for months now about loving Select, and that's just what we like. And part of it is because the pop count and the scarcity, which is the same on Top Shot. We're bringing that in because that's our show next week with guest CSU Ram. We're going to be talking about, again, the scarcity should matter some. In that world, yes, the moment can matter a little more because the amount of moments we may see long-term, but just go back to it. Scarcity is still important. So that's part of it. But if you want to get a Select Silver or a Select Tricolor or a Select Premier, like you just talked, or a courtside.
Tie-dye or a tie-dye.
Tie-dyes are very nice. That's what I'm saying. Courtside is another one that really nice cards, right? Like a field level in NFL. I'm just saying you can get some really unique, very scarce versions that aren't going to have as big of a price bump, because if the Concourse is down, then that can't be that much more. It's the next step up, but it can't be that much more. So if you really think and believe in the same things we do, that's where you'd want to be looking at. Don't just go buy the Concourse because it's that price. If you've got the budget, do a little bit of extra shopping and just see one step further. And that's why you want to have this tool, because you can say, okay, what did some of the other ones go for? And if it's only $100 more, it's, if you think this one's going up 300 in, let's say, the Tatum, then obviously his better Premier should go up even more. It's trending in that direction. Do me one more favor, actually, because I know we got just a couple minutes left.
Yeah,
can you go back to Donovan?
I'll go back. I'm pulling the Premier and the Premier Silver on Jokic to see if I've got any hits.
Not as much volume probably, but yeah, good to look.
No, and it's only a pop of 10. And that select Premier Silver just sold for $3,000, up 110%. Last sale date was in March. So you're not just going to see a lot of it. Yeah, you're not going to see a lot. Let's go Mitchell again. You said you want to pull up Donovan, right?
Yeah, we can round out the show on this. I just the one thing I noticed, so I want to just check, and so I love this tool, because the first thing we said was if these two are the same, everything else should be like that in our minds, right? But now I wonder, because every other card that we looked at was the opposite. So now I just wonder, is the buying opportunity on the Mitchell Prism, is it down? I want to go back and see those highs, because I didn't look. Well, it was the only one where it was basically equal, or the select was slightly more. The rest, it was almost a $300 gap between all of them. And again, I still think the value is there based on the pop count. And as the market gets smarter, and as you want to have more control over what you're doing and the ability to get out of it, I think the lower pop will always be important in the long term. But I just am curious now, going back down to the highs and lows. Just scroll down for a sec.
Yeah, now I pulled Donovan Mitchell, all his versions that they had available. I want to see the price difference. We're going to do the same thing on Prism. Let's just see where we are. And they're all up. I mean, the tricolor is up 172%. Last one just sold for $900. Concourse Silver up 26%, just sold for $1,009. The Scope, up 0%, but the only one, but low pop count too. Pop count of 22, probably not a lot out there. Look at these pop counts. All right, we got that. Let's pull up. You said you want to pull up.
Just add in the Prism with the Concourse. I just want to see what we had originally, the base versus base, and then we'll get out of here. But I just do want to see one more thing on that, because they both have a little bit more volume, obviously, and then I want to see comparisons, because the select was more here, but I do wonder what the high and lows are for those. And it's easy if you just scroll down and look here, but
they're about
the low was 286. And it's at 470, and they're about the same. So yeah, this is definitely good to look at. That's why I wanted to bring that up and see, because while the Prism is more liquid, it's still, the buy still looks like it's with the select on the other cards when you switch back and look at it this way, right? Because the lows and the highs that you see there just tell you that it's right in between. And on the other ones, we had still more room to go up. So yeah, I really do like some of those other selects that we looked at, because they're already with room to grow. Especially the Zion and the Tatum, the Trey,
Tatum, Zion. Get in on them now, folks. Because by the time the playoffs start, it's too late, I think. They're already going to be starting to come up. At any rate, Tambo, I mean, this was a good show today. I think this was a good one. We got a chance to use the tool a little bit, show you guys kind of how we do our thing. Get over to sportscardinvestor.com. Market movers, 20% off with promo code Grinders. I'm Will. That was Tambo. We're out of the castle. See you next week.